Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
My name is Tim Ricke. I'm a former Army Ranger from the 1st Division, 2nd Brigade. Our commander was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner named Lloyd Burke. And I'll talk about him a little bit later. When I arrived, within a month, our company clerk had been ordered to go to HQ headquarters of the brigade. So we fell out that morning, and Sergeant Willie Hawkins got out and said, "Gentlemen, I need a volunteer." And boy, we don't want to hear that word in the service, do we? We need a new company clerk. We need somebody to go to military correspondence school. There I stood. Now I knew it was cold in Kansas at Fort Riley, and it was 5 degrees that morning. Nobody else raised their hand. Keep in mind, in those days of the first set of people coming into the military, they called them the poor man's army because most of them had no education. If you're in college, you're exempt until the draft actually was negated a few years later. So for me, going to the military correspondence school seemed like a natural thing. Probably one of the best things that ever happened because I learned to be organized. I knew that there were two things I know. Everything's an acronym or a manual. That's exactly how the military works. So it came in handy. The first order I had to type up was for all military people to go to the dispensary within the next 30 days to have corrective lenses made for their gas masks. This sounds like a red flag to me, does it to you? You know? So that we got that all done. And third week in October now, this is about 2 months later, we were going to do not a live fire, but a military war game called Goldfire. So here we go to Missouri, and you should have seen that convoy. I mean, the entire division, every piece of equipment, every truck, everything just went all the way across to Missouri. Route 66 was the division line between two different countries. We were to invade south of there, and we did. Our first night there, they opened a PX so we could have beer. Now keep in mind, in Kansas, this was a dry state. Missouri is not. You want to see a bunch of drunk soldiers. Oh my God, 2 beers and they're out of their mind. And I had my beer and I walked back, and here these guys have got the radio on in my little squad. They call themselves Ricke's Rangers. All drunk, and somebody had on Bobby Vinton's Lonely Soldier. These guys are crying, they're depressed. I went over and I turned the radio off. They were mad, but I knew where it was taking them, you know. Here they are, they know that they're preparing for something, they don't know what. So that was funny. And as I sat there, we also got the mail. The mail call came out, and I got a letter from Mary. And some of you know about Mary from my days when I was drafted when we were engaged. And it was a terrible letter. She hated me. She was mad at me. She was upset with me. And I just took the letter and threw it in a little campfire we had going. And the reason was, I said, I don't need this. But the reality was that Mary still loved me, and this was her way of expressing it. 40 years later, I found out exactly what she was feeling. At that time, I thought, darn, I missed it, you know. So what are you going to do? So our captain had just gotten out of military warfare school, and he had been a non-com, and now he's a captain. So we had to travel all day, and he liked to attack from the rear in the early morning hours. So we hit and ran, just like the Minutemen back in the 1700s. So we were to attack one morning. We were coming in from the west, and we were on a hill high above our enemy below. And the captain said, "Ricke, give me the radio." He's talking to the squad leaders, platoon leaders. We're going to attack at 6:25. And I said, "Sir, what, Ricke?" And I said, "Sir, if we wait to maybe 6:25, according to the timetable I have, the sun will be coming up over our shoulder." "Yeah, what's that got to do with it?" "It'll be in their eyes, sir." He said, "Oh, geez, that's good. Where'd you learn that?" I said, "Oh, sir, it's that comes from Caesar, because this was one of Caesar's methods." And he said, "Well, that's a great idea. What's the defense against it?" And I said, "There is no defense against it, sir." "Well, there is one. This is from the Bible. It's where when the Israelites were being attacked, they ended up on a peninsula, and they were cornered. They went down for the night, but during the night, Solomon had them polish their trophies, their shields. So in the morning, when it happened, they turned the shields towards the sun and into the eyes of the aggressors, the Philistines, and over the cliff they went. So where'd you get that? It's in the Bible, sir. He said, Ricke, why the hell didn't they make you an officer? They did try, sir, but unfortunately they gave me the wrong kind of medication. I got sick and lost a lot of weight, and I was disqualified. So it's interesting how that happens. But we were really trying a new thing. We were going to bring in helicopters in large groups, companies down. First they tried taking ladders. Now that was hysterical. You tried out climbing a ladder out of a chopper. You got a chopper full of people. By the time they got down, they wouldn't be able to left because they'd be easy targets. So we finally learned to land them. But I do remember we're out on a pile and we're hiding behind a bush, and then come the helicopters from the opposing side, and they come in and they start firing away. And we have judges in there, and they have a white ribbon around their helmet as a judge. So I let go of my clip of 20 rounds from my M16, and you're dead. So he puts a KIA badge on me, killed in action. So I go all the way back, and as I'm going back, I see this farmer, and I said, who's the President of the United States? He looked at me oddly. See, the election had happened 2 weeks before. I didn't know. He says, Jansen. Jansen? What's Jansen? Jansen. Yeah, Jansen. J-O-H. So they spelled out Johnson. But I had no idea at that time. So you go back, you're out of the program for 2 days, and then you go back in. I got back, and because we were running all night, and every night, I was exhausted. So I got there, hit a cot. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon. I woke up at 6:30, and they said, let's go, Ricke, back into the problem. I said, what are you talking about? I don't go back till tomorrow. What do you mean? You've been asleep for 26 hours. I was tired. And everybody was in that same place. You never know what's going to happen. The military is an entire different thing. So we returned to Fort Myers 3 weeks later. Johnson had been elected, of course, and I could not get back into my bunk because it was too soft. But I finally did. That's my story, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.